1 second. Recording in progress. This is the Angel Dog Podcast. I'm Brian. My guest today is a high school football playing buddy of mine from Wheaton High, Maryland, Montgomery County, and that is Ron Sterling. And just a quick on how we got here. I'm doing this series of podcasts on retired LEOs, that's law enforcement officers, local, state, federal, and mixed in with some retired military, because we have served our communities, most of us, hopefully for the better, Ron, and hopefully we left things just a little bit better, although most of us would probably say no. We left things a little bit better than when we started. So with that being said, this isn't about me, it's about Ron. And I'm going to give a quick bio, and Ron, you just jump in here if I have something wrong. Ron, we both graduated Wheaton High School, Montgomery County, Maryland in 1970. And Ron, you grew up in Montgomery County. Am I correct? Montgomery County, Maryland. Which, for those of you that don't know, I don't know where it is on the fiscal scale today, but MoCo is the slang term we used to call it. Monkey County is another term. Montgomery County, I don't want to offend anybody out there who's from there, was one of the probably wealthiest counties eventually in the country. You know, Fairfax County, Virginia down there. And their police department, of which Ron was a member of for 29 years of his life. And very fine department. I couldn't get on. I don't think I could pass the mental exam over there, but very fine department. We're way ahead of their game in the early 70s and forward in training. They were very big. I served in his sister county, Prince George's County, and the city of Baltimore, right up the road there, up 95. So we played football together in high school. That's how me and Ron come together. And actually, audience, I didn't care for him because he wasn't in my tribe. What does that mean? Ron made me read this fornicating book called Truth Over Tribe. We'll talk about that a little bit. Truth Over Tribe. There's a podcast on it. Ron, I don't agree with most of it, but we'll get back. Yeah, now that I read the book. We did a little prelim, audience, and I read the book since then. And I know I'm going to get all kind of friggin' emails on this, but it's called Truth Over Tribe by Patrick Miller and Keith Simon. They mean well. I'm sure Ron can expound on that, but I find a little confliction myself. But we'll talk about that. So we played football in high school, and I would venture to say that Ron would say the same thing. In 1969, I'll put that in perspective. Here we are, 2024, a couple of days before Christmas. In 1969, we played, both of us first teamers, against a high school called Richard Montgomery, which was absolutely, at that point, number one in the country. And the coach was Roy Lester. Am I right? Head coach.
Correct.
I got that? Okay. And undefeated. Go ahead, Ron.
Not when we played him. He led up and he went to Maryland the year we played.
The year we played.
He was at the University of Maryland. We had another coach. So there's an asterisk by that championship.
Oh, yeah. I hope you didn't bring that up, because I hear I'm going to bloat the fact that we whooped them. 6-0. I wouldn't call that a whooping, but anyway, we won or tied for the championship. I think it was an unbelievable game before 10,000 people. It was absolutely incredible. And I played with Ron. Ron was a wide receiver. I was a lineman, offense and defense. And then our careers took off after that. After Ron graduated from high school, he went to Murray State. Am I correct? Were you on a scholarship there, Ron?
Not a scholarship. I was not Division I material.
You were not. When did you find that out?
I was heartbroken also. I wanted to get home and get back to my quarterback in Maryland.
And that shout out is going to go. I'm going to drop his name, Terry Changuris. That's who he's talking about. For any of those in the Montgomery County, D.C. area, infamous, went on to be an infamous high school coach. And so Ron goes to Murray State, and then you transferred to Frostburg, which you graduated circa 75.
It's been 74, but I had to sit out the semester with the rulings they had then when you transferred from school. They didn't have portals then.
Was that like the same as a red shirt? Was that?
Red shirt, you just, there was no scholarships at that school, but you had to sit out.
Got it.
From school to school.
Well, Ron played there, and he played to the point that he ended up being in the Hall of Fame. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then I did not know this until a couple minutes ago, but Ron coached at a high school in the D.C. area called Sherwood High School, which they won the championship. And you also got a Hall of Fame there on the coaching staff. And he was also he is in the Hall of Fame at our high school. So quite a decorated athletic career, if I may say. Kudos. Kudos, Mr. Sterling. And I got to tell you, Artie, I didn't like him in high school. I thought he was a pretty boy. I had braces. I weighed 240. I was like a refrigerator with a head. And I just didn't get along with him.
You were in a tribe.
Different tribe. That's right. Back to the book. The linemen were one tribe, and the backs and receivers, and the receivers were definitely a different tribe. So Ron comes out, and we're going to talk a little bit about his family life, and then we're going to go on into the law enforcement world. Ron, and he'll go through it. Ron ends up in Montgomery County Police, Moco County Police, and does 29 years. Am I correct, Ron, on that? Does 29 years. Sounds like he had quite a career. He worked in narcotics. He made sergeant. He was the first union shop steward. I got that right?
Not the first, but I was up there with some of them, yes.
Okay. And so that right there, for those of you that have served in the LEO communities, local, state, or federal, that is something, because those problems and issues that we had then became worse as the years went on. Did a little homework. 10 officers killed in the line of duty in Montgomery County. That's the best I could find. Not to bring up a sad note, but just to give you some stats. They've been through quite a few chiefs, so Ron can bring that out. They had a consent decree in 2018. Did you know that? I did not know that. A consent decree, everybody, is what that basically means. Every one of my agencies except DEA, it's federal. A consent decree is federal, from the feds. Goes into a state or local department, and it puts them under duress that they can't take care of their own. And I'm not throwing that at Montgomery County. My departments were both on it, PG and Baltimore. And, we could spend a whole freaking 4-hour podcast on that alone. And being that I came from the Baltimore City ranks and end up in a Fed, I got all kind of comments on that. So, Ron, we're going to start with your family, and then let's hear a little bit about your family background. What motivated you to end up in Montgomery County Police? And let's talk about your parents. Let's talk about Dad first. Go ahead.
The best. He grew up during the Depression. He was one of 8 children.
Wow.
And World War II veteran, prisoner of war, 9 months in Stalag in Germany.
Unbelievable.
Got back and started working, and I don't know how my parents met. They met through, it was a fixed up date, just through a friend and whatnot, and fell in love. They had a distance romance. I've got some of their love letters, or some of his love letters, and he was old school. They were a great team. They were the epitome of a married couple. They didn't agree with everything, but they made sacrifices for each other. Ultimate parents. That my friends, once I became a man, who ever knows what year that was.
I'm still working on that, by the way. I just want you to know.
My friends became they no longer. He was no longer dad per se. They were my friends' friends. And from Wheaton High School, my mom in the library, they loved her. My friends would go in there and they'd get the sports newspapers. She'd hide them so we'd get to see them first.
Well, don't leave out your brother.
And then my brother, yeah. I was thinking about that. We never fought. We never had, he was a nerd. I was a jock. And when I say nerd, he wasn't a jock.
Got it.
And he ended up being a police officer before me. But prior to that, his passion was fire rescue. He went to the Red Cross. He got taken to the hospital in 6th grade by the Wheaton Rescue Squad. He had to stay overnight. They came and visited the next day. his passion began. He
Wow.
started and became, while he was a police officer,
Mhm.
he was a paramedic on the SWAT team. While he was a police officer, he was the chief of the Wheaton Volunteer Rescue Squad. He ran an organization 25 years of his 32-year career.
Of 25 years of his 32 Moco County police career,
Yes.
he was
Yes.
also doing 25 years with the rescue squad
Yes, as a volunteer.
as a
And
volunteer.
overseeing, he also oversaw paid members. There
Wow.
was volunteers, but there were paid members there. You're talking about politics,
Oh my.
dealing with.
It- it-
He's amazing. He still does it during COVID in Delaware. He was 70 years old. He ran the second most calls of the volunteers on calls.
but Ron, I gingerly asked this: is your brother still alive?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
still
gotcha.
doing it.
Still doing it. Still doing it.
Yes,
Okay,
he's
now
got four still running calls
you
in Delaware.
you say he started before you on the PD, Montgomery County
Yes.
PD. And what year? Give me a ballpark. Give me a year. 73, 4?
73 or 74.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm going to bring these time dates up, everybody, is because in this field, and you guys who and girls that this is directed towards, really, and anybody for that matter, the time in the world has changed, and the political stance, of course, has changed, right? So when myself and Ron came into the LEO world, things were much different. No body cams, nothing of that nature. I don't even think there was any recordings in the car. No, absolutely not. In the patrol car, was there?
There were no phones.
No
No,
phones. Didn't have
no
this.
phones.
Didn't have this $1,000 piece of plastic where everybody could follow every move you made.
You
And
were
the
a
same
big,
thing.
you got a big phone in a big box.
Right. So okay, so let's take it from there. So um, now eloquently you describe your parents. So you had the parental unit, and it's going to be interesting as I go through these how much that made a difference, how much it didn't. Now, of course, we both know, ladies and gentlemen, that came into our ranks, meaning in the LEO world or military world, that came from broken homes. I mean, myself and you, we came from rock solid, in the box, I would say, squared away parents for the most part. Did you ever ask your father about being a prisoner of war? Did that ever come up in your early, let's say, your teen years, college?
PTSD.
Okay. Oh,
And he coped. He coped.
okay.
He socially, when he drank a lot, but he didn't. It was a social kind of thing. But I, when both my parents passed away, I never shed a tear because I know where they are. My faith, they were dedicated Christians, and I didn't shed a tear. But now I regret. I have so many questions, so many, just like
Wow.
you're asking a question. I'll share this. I'll make it real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go. We're going to come back to
The
this. I'll
funny
keep you on
one.
track.
My father knew. I don't know if he made this story up, but I don't think he made it up. He was in a stalag it housed every nation, housed Jews, it housed females. It was huge.
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe 15 to 20 football fields, that big, with a big fence around, and then the compounds themselves were fenced in. This guy in his compound, the American compound, would go over the fence at night to meet with a lady. We'll leave it
Okay,
at
that's
that.
pretty
And he'd come
normal.
back and he'd brag, you know how men, and he'd
Of course.
brag. He went over the fence once too often, bam, in the back of the head, dead. And my father said, son, the lesson from this is don't think with that little head.
Well, a lot of us we got ourselves in a lot of trouble.
You know, I believe it probably happened, but he didn't talk about things. He
Wow.
talked about the day he got liberated. They went out on they would go out on wood details, cut down trees, and providing supply for the war.
Mhm.
And they usually have a detail of 20 to 30 guards. The day they went out, there was all kinds of activity going around, and they only had like 5 guards with them. They went out, their planes flying over. The Germans ran that way, they ran the other way. I mean, it was
That
just
was
that
it.
quick.
But when did you find out? When did you get the details? And I like what you said. And one of the reasons, everybody, for the audience, that I'm doing this is I think it's kind of I'm giving back in my own way. And Ron, and we can reflect. I haven't talked to Mr. Ron. I call him a gentleman. I haven't talked to Ron. What, a 45-year gap, a 50-year
Probably.
gap, and the minute everybody, and this is the tribe. Okay. The minute that we connected on the phone, which was probably 6 years ago, ballpark, somewhere in there, I had no clue what he had done for a living. Excuse me. The minute we talked, I said, "This is my brother." That's what I said. Everything the way he viewed, well, of course, there is a big difference. We'll get to that. Everything the way he viewed the world is the way we learned through 3 decades of being in that tribe. And ladies and gentlemen who are not involved in that world, LEO world in the U.S., it is a tribe, and no doubt about it. Now, put me on freaking, where's Bill O'Reilly? Anyway, I don't give a, just put me on right now, me and Ron both. I mean, it's a tribe. There's no question about it. Okay, so let's go back. So you said you have a lot of questions now. Are you referring to your parents and the relationship back, put yourself back around that going into love?
With them. I remember asking my mom, I didn't get married till I was 39.
Right.
And I asked her, did you think I was gay or something? She says, no, I never thought that. She says, but I didn't.
Ron
know
was a virgin until he was 38. Okay, I want everybody to know that. Close. 18? Don't answer that. Okay, so wait a minute now, young man. Hold it. So, so you find out all of this about your dad, which you would make him a superhero. I mean, really.
Yes.
Silent but strong. So take me a little bit through the college years and then your exit out of the college years and into the LEO world. Now, in Frostburg, where you're playing ball in Frostburg, while you were attending Frostburg, your brother was already on the job, I gather.
Yes. Yeah.
Am I correct?
Well, I was at Frostburg. Yes, correct.
Okay. So
I don't know what year, but he was, yes.
Okay, so take me now where you're cruising along, coming out of Frostburg, and you're going to go into the real world. Give it to me.
Well, my primary concern was playing football.
Okay.
Primary concern.
I think we all started that, right?
I ended up being captain of the team that senior plus year.
Mm-hmm.
I only took so many credits because I already had all the credits I needed. I had to take the mandatory, and it was electives. So it was unreal. But my goal originally, I wanted to go to the FBI.
Okay.
When I was younger.
We'll hold that against you today.
Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. was my hero.
Your show.
Yes, and that was a thought. The seed was planted there, the FBI and a suit and just being professional and blah blah blah.
I got it. And when about was that? When was
It started as a kid. And I didn't live it. But
okay, started as a kid.
Sports was the
priority. But yeah. You had this on the bench in second string. You were thinking about being an FBI agent.
Knowing FBI, I wasn't an accountant, so I had to have prior law enforcement. So I applied because my brother could get on. My thought was I can get on. And I say that Paul, if you hear this, I'm not knocking. You and I know each other, but I applied. I had been accepted before I graduated.
Before you graduated at Frostburg?
Yes, and I went to the next class. I would have been in session 3 of all the sessions, session 3 academy class, and I waited and went to session 4 after I graduated. I graduated in December of that year and went into the academy in March.
In March of?
75. 75,
okay. And I started mine April of 76. So let me ask you something. How about the movie Serpico? Did you remember that?
Yeah.
Did that have any influence, or is that a little bit too far out there?
It was a good movie.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. How about Steve McQueen in Bullet, 68? We were juniors.
those possibly were in the back of my mind. I don't. The FBI, Ephraim Zimmer's Jr. was
That was
deceased.
it. Okay, got it.
Deceased.
So
All that other might be fertilizer.
okay, all right. So you had FBI on your brain behind football for a long time. Now, for the audience, was there anybody in your immediate or secondary family that was in law enforcement? Anybody?
Well, my brother, and then we had a cousin who was on Montgomery County Police, Bill Sterling.
Oh, and older or younger?
The oldest of my dad's siblings was his son, and he went on the police department. He's rest in peace. He's left us.
Okay.
Bill Sterling, and his primary job. He ended up as a motorman, but he was well known.
Very good. So there was some gene influence. There definitely was a mentoring a little bit, I would say. Yes, no?
No.
No, not really. Oh, you were kind of.
Not really.
Little did I know that Ron here, I thought he was, well, he calls him a nerd. That's an old term, but here I thought he was flamboyant, the Rat Pack behind me here. I thought he was one of them, and it turns out he was a damn church mouse. Turns out I was the opposite. I was the one.
Pretty much a follower.
What's that?
Pretty much a follower.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, that's interesting. So, okay, so you go on to Montgomery County. Now, I'm going to fast forward because this is going to play towards the end. Now, for the audience, I interviewed a couple of weeks ago Father Chuck Polak.
Polak.
I got that right? He chewed me out about 3 times for that. And he was a former nuclear submarine commander. It's already out there. You can pull it up. And at the age of 79, the father retired from the U.S. Navy, a full 30-some years. Joint Chiefs of Staff, it's unbelievable. And at the age of 79, he becomes an ordained priest in a program I had never heard of until I did an interview with him, until Ron brought it to my attention, called KAIROS, KAIROS. I got that right?
God's Special Time.
It stands for special time.
God's
special time. Well, that's a big difference. I can't compare to that. Okay, so Ron, and we're going to get there, at the retired part of your career, ends up, and make sure I got this right. You ended up in this program, similar or this exact program?
This program.
Okay, this program. So Mr. Ron is definitely on the path, if you will. I don't know what other terminology to use. Not yours truly so much, but maybe he could convince me. I don't know. I'm trying to right the ship here so I can at least get I'm a bad Catholic, purgatory. Is it purgatory? Is that the middle one?
I'm not sure. I think Catholics invented that.
I'll have to look that up. I just want work release. That's all I want. All right, so you get on Montgomery County. So when you get on Montgomery County, Ron, what is we're going to go a couple personalities, if you will, and we didn't get a chance to talk about this in our prelim. And once I read your book, The Tribe. Listen to this now. I read the book Tribe, and for the audience, there was a series called We Own This City, and it was about a federal. Well, no, that's incorrect. It was about a city-run gun task force in the city of Baltimore that 7 of them got federally indicted somewhere around, well, they got sentenced in the 2017, 2018, city of Baltimore. They're all doing federal time. The sergeant's name was Wayne Jenkins. And I sent this clip to Ron, which I found he was interviewed in federal penitentiary by a BBC journalist. And I was going to try to do that interview here. I might have changed my mind on that. Bottom line is, back to you, Ron. Did you see yourself as, I'm talking, I want you to go back in time as a rookie cop. I'm allowed to use that terminology today, right? Or did you see yourself as a savior? Did you, like your brother was definitely community-oriented, wanted to help people. Or did you see yourself as a warrior? Like, going after bad guys, taking them down, kind of like the opposite team in football. They're all kind of the same gene pool, or a commando if you were in SWAT or something like that. Can you remember what your vision was? Or did you just want to have a good time and meet babes walking in the mall? Or all of the above?
Being part of a team, it was a
Team.
team force, you
Beautiful.
say tribe, team. The shift I went on was great. The sergeant I had was wonderful.
Wow.
I was welcomed. There were some weak cops.
Of course.
Most of the guys, uh, the Boy Scout cops, I didn't want to be around them.
Wait a minute. Explain that. Explain the Boy Scout
I
cops.
say that, here it is, and Boy Scouts of America is one of the greatest organizations that's ever been.
Okay.
It teaches kids structure, determination, leadership, but there's rules, and you stay in the boundaries.
In the boundaries, between the guardrails. Got it.
Some of them tend to. I'm going to write you a parking ticket. I'm going to write this. I'm going to stats and numbers, and that is what I see law enforcement about. I see serving public,
Okay.
catching bad guys, correcting behavior, not enforcing behavior, correcting. Like red light, you ran a red light. I'm going to pull you over. If you act totally obnoxious, you're getting a ticket.
Okay.
If you don't, and warning. It's about warning. It's about making people safe. But
Hold it right there. Hold it right there. Now, for the audience, and again, we didn't talk about this one particular point. Because we didn't have body cameras, because there wasn't a freaking watching your every move camera in the car, just without your red and blues on or whatever the deal was. I want you to expound upon what I'm about to say. We had the leeway, like you just said. We could make a judgment for the most part on the minute, second interface with the human being. Am I correct?
correct.
There we go.
And
Right.
departments, governments, anytime something comes up that they get sued for, they make a regulation. They make a guideline, which is totally ridiculous sometimes.
Roger that.
Stop and frisk, you had to fill out these forms. So you're working midnights, and you got somebody who's in a bad area that shouldn't be in the bad area. You check them out.
You're getting jacked. Right. Absolutely.
You check them out. There's so many things you could do now. Now it's so regulated, and you can't do this, you can't do that.
I agree 1,000%.
I think about during the crack epidemic. I worked plain clothes in the neighborhood we grew up down in Wheaton, Center Hill, and it was running rampant. And I'd put my foot up kids' butts. It's 2 o'clock in the morning in Montgomery County, Maryland. They're out on the streets selling crack or whatnot, or being a lookout, whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I, by today's standards, I abused them. But I sent them on, and I tell them I'll arrest them the next time,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, but hold on now. Well, I don't want you to jump too quick off patrol, because that's going to build to the plain clothes. Yeah. Because in the clip I sent you about Sergeant Wayne Jenkins out of the corrupt gun trace task force in Baltimore, of which there's many. I'm sorry, audience. I didn't mean many corrupt gun task forces or drug task forces. I meant, excuse me on that. Got to watch my words here. I meant, of course, corruption. There's corruption in doctors and brain surgeons, for God's sakes. Although that would be pretty bad, wouldn't it? The receiving end of that. But anyway, the bottom line is, going from uniform, where Ron was and I started, then when you make the switch out of the suit, we used to call it, right, and you go plain clothes, that's where, to me, the rules change. Now, let me explain, and I want you to expound. Like you, I'm a year behind you at that point. When I saw the plainclothes guys as a rookie, this is in Baltimore now. When I saw the plainclothes, I said, "Who are those dudes right there? I want that job right there." I.e. Serpico, i.e. Prince of the City. Oh, that was later. French Connection, Bullet. I said, where can I get a job like that? They had long hair. We had to have our hair cut all the time, all that BS, all those regulations, uniform regulations. Today, things, as you know, have changed. No beards, all that kind of stuff, right? And I said, I want to do that, because now in my eyes, which turned out to be true, those units were not as well. That's the wrong choice of words. They were a little bit more rogue. and particularly the ones I went to. So did you find that in plain clothes? Were you an officer or a sergeant at that point?
Officer,
Okay.
officer.
And did you find the personality as a whole?
I was a sergeant and left it to be with my family because the hours were unpredictable. But I found supervising the unit that I was in plain clothes, I had to put reins on them a little bit.
Okay.
A little, just a
Okay.
little bit, not a whole lot. They weren't out. I don't remember us being out of control. In fact, we got our unit got in the Wheaton station got an award for
Okay.
productivity, arrests and closing cases and burglaries and different things like that. But it wasn't.
But you were an all-purpose, for lack of better terms, a street slang jump out squad. Yeah. Or special investigative unit.
Called special assignment. We get
Special
if there's
assignment.
a problem here, you take care of it. If there's a surveillance, somebody might call us up to just do surveillance or follow
Got
somebody.
it. So
And we did everything.
So you were working with a lot of other units in this specialty unit.
Well, on occasions, not a lot, not
Okay.
a lot of the time.
So were you also proactive?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Now that's where I was going with it. So let's both turn our heads back to patrol. So in patrol, you got the radio, right? Unless you're an aggressive like Ron Sterling. Taking down crosswalkers, jaywalkers to get your stats up.
Yeah.
Kidding, Ron. Come on. So
got my Eagle badge.
you're waiting for the radio call, okay, or you're motivated by the radio call, and then you respond accordingly. And as we both know, there were, again, I say ladies and gentlemen, but I didn't have any ladies in my time in those years. But I don't know if you did or did you? Or did. Okay. So there were ones that would jump on their call in their beat, and there were other ones that were stuck in 7-Eleven getting their donuts and coffee. And I said, I'll take the call. Were you doing the same?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that right there puts you in a separate category. Okay. Now hold on now. Let me so my law dogs out here understand what I'm talking about. So now let's go back to your special unit. Just like football. Well, football, everybody's got to perform, man, or you're not playing. I mean, let's face it. You got to, might be a little politic, and maybe, I mean, you can expound on that if you want. But you either could play the position or you were gone, man. Somebody's taking your slot. They don't give a crap if they're a freshman or a senior. Don't make any difference, right? Okay.
Right.
So now let's go to the PD. So you got those that are jumping on arrests, jumping on takedowns, jumping on stop and frisk, jacking people, getting their field interviews. They are generally the ones that make the plain clothes special IU you're talking about units. Yeah, because you're not gonna get a slug in there because the hours are frigged up. You're gonna work day and night. Well, your neighbor's who's a CPA or whatever, electrician, he's at the beach in friggin' Delaware or whatever, while you're working midnights sitting on some godforsaken surveillance. Am I right?
Right.
Notice how I say that with a little anger to the public. Notice, audience, how as I'm now in my 7th decade with Ron, I look back on those moments and say, where the fuck was he at? My neighbor's, he's working a 9-to-5 union job. No offense, guys. Sorry. Anyway, so now you end up being a sergeant in one of those units. So you didn't find that you had any loose ends in your units. You didn't find that drawing the high achievers or the most aggressive, if you will. I know today they don't want to use aggressive and law enforcement in the same category, but
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I just laughed.
Yeah, because I found as I went along, Baltimore PG and definitely in my federal ranks, which is his entire agency of, at the time, I thought meat eaters. That's for lack of slang better terms. Okay. So now you're in patrol. Take us to the part where you get into when did you get into not bargaining, what do you call it, shop steward? You didn't have a union in the early days, am I correct? Or did?
It started in the early days because we got collective bargaining. We went door to door, one election, and we got collective bargaining for the police department.
You part of that?
Yeah, yes, we went door to door, yes, and here we would like for you to vote for this issue. And it passed quickly. I guess people were pro law enforcement then. still possibly. But that was my first touch with that. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just on the team. This is what we're rolling. We're rolling.
Wait a minute, Ron. On the team, you said. You said that before.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to let Ron expound on this, but I don't know how you. We didn't address this in our little prelim. That team thing, as when I found in my career when that team eroded, I say this boldly now. Wow, first time I ever said it. Is that my inspiration to do better kind of went down a little bit because I didn't like that. Where's the team? Where'd they go? And I found that whatever agency I was in at that time, the top support started getting weaker. Did you find that?
Absolutely.
Oh, can you give a specific? You want to talk about a specific incident or no? Or as far as
I just
the agency?
straight up. I've got a notice here.
Ron, I lost your camera.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you. I can't see your pretty face.
Just kick computer once you put on pause, and let me see if you get my wife here.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right. We'll stop it. Okay, so you were talking about on this collective bargaining, right? So, so you were involved in that right from the beginning.
No.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't involved. I helped get established. Everybody, the shifts were asked go to their district and go door to door.
Okay.
Pass out forms and explaining what we wanted and what we wanted on the ballot.
And it obviously became successful.
Correct.
And being that it became successful, what rank were you at that point? Officer? Okay, patrol officer. Okay, so in the line of like a union, I'm trying to compare it to a union. Am I doing that right or no?
Yeah. It's
okay.
Semantics.
So if you had a something going on with the agency, whether it be a discipline, there you go, like a review board, something of that nature, would this collective bargaining group represent you?
Yes.
Okay. So did that involve outside attorneys?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so now, and correct me if I'm wrong, because we didn't talk about this, was there a group of attorneys that got appointed, or you all went out and looked for a group? Or FOP or PBA or anything like that?
I can't say.
Okay.
I don't know.
But you definitely had some form of appeal.
You would have representation, yes.
Okay. So that involved, did that also involve officer-involved shooting, deadly force? Would it?
Yes. I stand to be corrected, but yes, I believe so.
Okay. So it's pretty powerful, really. You think, giving statements and all that and all those kind of things. All right. So now let's go where I want to tie in where we talked about where you're single in your early years. You didn't get married till you were 39. And like, ladies and gentlemen, I know you find this shocking, but like Wayne Jenkins, if you watch the series We Own the City, we interface with the public, all types of public, and you get to meet a lot. I preferred women. I know Ron did at the time. Not that he doesn't now, I'm just saying, but I mean, what I'm saying, audience, is that you got to interact with the public, and the better you got along with the bad guys, bad girls, blah, 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 all the above, whether they be a streetwalker in Baltimore or an attorney on Wall Street, you learned how to talk to people. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
Which means that we both probably had active social lives. Ooh, that sounded pretty good, didn't it? Read between the lines.
Way of putting it.
No DNA testing then. Okay, so now take me to the point. Now, this is interesting because I got a lot of stuff I want to get out here because I know there's guys that want to hear this. So when did you make this change? And the audience, I'm saying that Ron is now heavily involved in his religious beliefs. Christian, would that cover it?
Covers it.
Okay. And he now, we'll get to that towards the end of our discussion here, our conversation, is that Ron goes into the state correctional facilities and Offers guidance. Would that be the correct terminology? Support?
It's solicit. We do prayer and share. We share.
Share.
Experience, share. Listen. The mantra on a weekend when these guys are going, it's a 4-day thing. The mantra is listen, love, love. These guys never get listened to. They've never been really loved. I'm talking about in your maximum security prisons. It isn't easy to get into maximum security.
So you have, and I'm fast forwarding audience, I'm going to come back to the PD here.
Okay.
So fast forward to the modern day, you're doing this program. Are these, you say they're not max security, or it's harder to get into max security? Which is it?
No, I'm talking about the guys that are there.
Yeah.
You go to local jails,
Right.
detention
Jail.
centers, but prison is
Prison. No, I know the difference. Yeah.
Well, maybe the audience doesn't know. I mean,
Yeah.
prison,
No. Exactly. Explain it, please.
no, it's more serious crimes, more violent crimes,
Yeah.
more number of crimes.
And you have and more career criminal.
Correct.
And you're dealing with those now.
Right.
Good. Hold that thought. And we'll come back to that. So let's back it up again. So you're on you did your collective bargaining. You're in patrol. Take us to the point where you met your wife, your current wife of how many years? 35?
32.
32 years? Okay. Purple Heart material. Okay. For her.
It's 34. Yeah, 34.
34. Okay. So somewhere around this time, you're expecting your first child, you and your wife, and you decide that what are you working at that point? What are you in? Are you doing plain clothes? You're doing uniform patrol? You're a sergeant? Well, give us the background. What you doing?
I'm in plain clothes I met her when she was 10.
Audience, he was. Let's. Can you explain that, please? In light of the government,
10 years older than her. I was her rec leader in the summertime in college, and it was my last rec center. And then I ran into her years later. She was married and got divorced. It was 26, and I was 36. We met at a local consumption area.
Okay, that means a bar. Okay, I got it. I understand. And so she was legal, audience, is what we were saying. She's way past the legal age. Consent in Montgomery County at that time was probably 14 or something. I think PG was 12. But anyway.
He dated 3 years.
Okay. So, all right. So you get married, and you're in patrol. You're in plain clothes. You are a sergeant. You're running and gunning. That's just a slang term. No?
No.
Okay, good.
First of all, my life changed when I got married. That's when I came back to Christ.
Oh, well, let's explain that. Let's explain that. Go ahead.
I was not aware at the time, but I was raised by a Christian family that was wonderfully Christian. They never beat me with the Bible. They witnessed to me. My parents served, they volunteered, they did so much. When I took my vows, knowing what I saw in the police department, men with PTSD, veterans, had wives and girlfriends. That was not me. When I took my vows, my life changed. I came back to truly dedicated to be a Christian.
Okay. May I?
So at that point, I was playing clothes at that point.
Okay.
I went into narcotics. I was just a short term in narcotics. So I didn't really like it a whole lot. So I went back.
Why not? Explain that. You never said that before.
It was a tribe I didn't get along with.
I'm sorry?
It was a tribe I didn't get along with.
And that is correct. Ladies and gents who have not served in LEO communities as a career, there's a big difference. Go see the interview of Sergeant Wayne Jenkins, everybody, on YouTube. There's a huge, huge difference. It's a different mindset. It's a different way of approaching your community. I never had that community thing. I hate to say that to everybody. I mean, I was God and country, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. I have a problem with that, but because the, us against them is what I was thinking. Okay, but let's go back to you. This is about you.
Well, I left that. We were married. We got
Right.
married, and I started taking promotion exams again because I'm thinking about retirement, and overtime doesn't go with you when you leave.
Ah,
You understand
okay.
what I'm saying? I
Got
made
it.
a lot of overtime. I had no problem working,
Got it.
and something you take for granted.
That's right.
Well,
Did you ever even think about retirement at that? I guess you started to.
well, I'm 39 years old.
Yeah.
I'm halfway there, and I have
Uh,
a wife, and I'm just taking. I bought my first house. I
oh,
hadn't
wow.
bought it.
And no
I
kid, and no kids yet, right?
had debts, but
Uh-huh.
now I'm thinking about financially being set. So I started taking promotion exams, and then, like I said, my dream come true to be the sergeant over the SAT team. It was wonderful, but then I have two kids now.
Uh-oh.
I have two kids, and the hours are going all over the
All right.
place. Whatever this week, you might work 10 days straight.
Call
You might,
right. Call
I'm a-
outs.
because of the case, whatever it might be.
Right.
Just like the snipers,
Right.
people were working their butts off then. But was it? I enjoyed it, but I wanted to get back to stable hours so I could be with my family. That was the
Now,
part.
let me ask, because I have a personal confliction with this, and we've talked about this a little bit, and I would love to hear from others in the LEO community who did 20, 30 years. If you did more than 30, wow. I'm not talking about administrators either, although you could have gone that. Sorry, gentlemen and ladies. We got a commissioner now, one of the biggest departments in the world, who has never served a day in uniform. Thank you very much. Okay. I don't know how you do that. I beyond my comprehension. Anyway, so you basically, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Ron Sterling, you started thinking like a real person, like my CPA next door, like the plumber down the street who's got kids and he's trying to make some overtime to make a living, but he's working pretty much steady hours, punching the clock. And now you don't want all that extra stuff. You're thinking, because you ended up actually retiring about 11, 12 years later. You're 39, 40, somewhere in there, right? So did that change did Christianity make that change? Or was it the life of the wife and the kids? Or all of it?
All of it. It's like
You didn't lose any.
being a supervisor.
Uh-huh.
Being a supervisor completely changes things.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my God.
Completely changes things. So I mean, the first shift when I went back to the shifts, I guess I was on shift first, then went to sergeant. But my first statement was, my priority is God, my family, and then this job. And with that, you are my family.
Yeah, tribe. Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
You are my family.
Okay. Very good. So you didn't, with those priorities like that. Now, we're not going to say any names, of course. Didn't you work with, like I did, Vietnam vets?
Yes.
Okay. So the reason I bring that up, audience, is that, and they were all, again, in my observation and my realities, they were men, literally, particularly Army and Marine Corps, coming back from Vietnam in one piece for the most part. And the most natural thing was to be a cop, right? And they just wanted to punch a clock, do patrol, same thing they did in the jungles, whatever, and answer calls and go home. And then a lot of liquor and Camel cigarettes in between, right? And a couple of women. When you are exposed to that tribe, to me, it had a tremendous influence in my career. It had a tremendous influence. And I was confused, and I didn't hear you say it as of yet, but I was confused as, am I supposed to be in that tribe or am I supposed to be in that tribe? And being a single guy until I was 35, I didn't know where to go with that. And like and enamored that you settled down and straightened out. And well, I'm looking back now saying, geez, why didn't I do that? Right? But I just couldn't get out of that friggin' tribe. I couldn't. Without corruption, may I add, but I saw corruption. It's another podcast. But go ahead. Yeah, so did that influence you? Did any of that, those type of guys, and you had the same arena?
My first field training officer, the guy who trained me, and you have three in I guess a half a year, or maybe less. I forget what the time elements were. You had three. You're supposed to ride with three. I rode with the Vietnam vet. I loved him. He was a friend, and I will mention his name. He's a great guy, Tom Handler. But he had PTSD. But he did his job. He trained me, I believe, excellently. Do your job, not the bare minimum, but not the overboard either. Not overboard. Do your job. Something's expected of you. Do it. And if you don't want to work, hide. Yeah, I mean,
that's the way he. That was it.
Basically, I don't know that he said that, but you know how police can get together. What's the best? The parking, window to window, talking, drinking coffee.
It's a trap. It's a trap.
It's people don't understand working midnights. With it being shift work. If you work permanent midnights, that made it easier. But when you go from one shift to the next, your body never adjusts.
Never adjusts. Takes years off your life. It literally takes years.
What you do is, it's the tribe. You learn, where do you sleep if you have to sleep. People do sleep on midnights on occasions.
Shocking as it may seem.
I shared the story, and I won't use his name. I'm sure he'd allow me to, but
yeah,
we worked midnights to 8. It was a Sunday morning, and he parked in a church lot, and he overslept. He woke up, there were cars all parked around.
From the next shift or from the freeway?
No, from people going to church.
Going to church. Oh, Lord have mercy. Oh, well, I could say I've had a couple of those kind of incidents, and nobody bothered them.
Right.
Nobody.
No, but those are things people think that shift work doesn't take its toll on you. And you know, like I said, if you work permanent midnights, it's easier to adjust because that's your routine. But when you go from working day work to working midnight,
oh my, Lord have mercy.
Horrible.
Did you the guys that work narcotics? Let's go back to that crew. Did you stay in touch with them? Did they crash and burn? Did you ever do follow-ups on them? And I don't remember any scandals in Montgomery County. I just don't recall. No real scandals.
There was no problem. I had my personal issues with a few of them, and moved on.
Okay. If you were to summarize your LEO career in Montgomery County, what was your best unit? What was your best time? There you go.
SAT, Special Assignment Team.
Special Assignment Team. Wow.
Yes.
And the reason being?
And we worked together. It was a team. I mean, truly team. And I talked to a number of them. We just had a reunion. I was trying to get as many. There's the unit I was in, you would not have imagined. There were some guys in there, in my opinion, being a jock, were the biggest nerds you could. There was a Vietnam vet that I didn't even know until just recently that he was a Vietnam vet.
Wow. Wow. That's something.
Yeah. And he had some issues. He's having issues right now. He retired and his wife died. And he lost part of his retirement because it was guaranteed to her. I mean, he got screwed. He just had an amputation just recently. He had a son-in-law just pass away, and I mean, he's had issues with the police department. But he was a great cop. We had fun working together. There were other people. We had the women in there were great. And one she was a great interrogator. So it blends. You use your strengths, your weaknesses.
Right. That's right.
A plainclothes unit. In uniform, that's a little different. That is different because you have your beat, you have this, and
That's correct. And that's one of the cruxes of our conversation. And that's why I want to talk to gentlemen and ladies, whoever you may be, that went into specialized units, because that separates a lot of things. It really does. And just, you described it exactly the way I would. Exactly. It's especially if you're a supervisor, sergeant, whatever, you're the first supervisor of that unit, you have more leeway. And that's what happened to Sergeant Wayne Jenkins in Baltimore. They were bringing in the stats. The commanders were decorating them because there was an absolute gun control was out of control in Baltimore during those years, 2012, somewhere around there. But it's always been out of control. Street robberies, the whole thing, narcotics. And what happens is that they supervise themselves. So if you don't have the guardrails to begin with, you're running off into the woods, man. You just keep pushing the envelope. And anyway, that's a whole nother podcast right there. But any of you out there that want to get a hold of me, please do on that. I enjoyed it. And that's all I can say. So let's go back to you now. Looking back now today, Ron, what's your overall take on administration? Was there any good years? You had 2 or 3 different chiefs at least during your time. And what would you say to that? Did it change what you did?
I struggled with young administrators climbing the ladder quickly.
Ah.
They don't have any real experience. They have intelligence. They know what to say, but they don't have experience.
Speaking of that, stop right there. Go back for a second what you said on the entrance exam about telling the truth. Expound on that.
First promotion exam. First of all, I have to say, in 4.5 years of college, I worked harder in the police academy than I did in 4.5 years.
I would agree.
Less than a half a year in the academy. And I did well. I finished, I think, 12 out of 50. Then my first promotion exam, I'm excited. The Vietnam vet that trained me, we studied, his wife took us through. There was a transportation article, 300 pages, the state code for law. And then bigger than that is the guidelines for the police department, the general orders. And you had to know these things on the written test. Crushed it. I got the 4th. You got the 2nd highest. I got the 4th highest. Man, I'm Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. bound. I'm in there. There's no doubt about it. And I go in, though, there's 2 parts. There's an oral interview. I knew nothing about oral interviews. I didn't know you don't tell the truth. You tell them what they want to hear. From a 94. With my oral interview, I ended up with a 67. That means I didn't answer a question right. Which was, is it a big bull, poo-poo, caca, or something? Oh, that was when I became a shop steward.
That's when what?
That's when I became, after that, I was so angry. I became a shop steward. You want to do battle? You don't want to play with the truth? Okay.
I got you. I'll
play with the truth.
I got it. And also, tell us the short story about when you became sergeant and you go into the patrol room. Everybody knows it well. What the deal? And what you told your squad.
Well, I told you that already.
No. We got to hear. The audience got to hear it. They haven't heard it.
Yeah, no, I said it earlier though. About God being my priority.
Oh, you told it. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I missed it. Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. And nobody left. Nobody ran.
No.
Nobody ran away.
I had a couple guys talking. There's some people, their jaws dropped.
Was there anybody else through your entire career that was on that mantra?
There were. I tell you what. Looking back, there weren't. But the departments, over 1,000-man department, there were people in their areas. They started since we retired. They tried to start something up for fellowship for cops that are on the department and have a monthly thing, and it went for a little while, but it's very hard with shift. It's hard with shift work and stuff. But you don't hear you don't hear Jesus much on shifts and
No.
in the police department.
Interesting. Everybody take note of that one. Through your career, did you married with children, and now you're coming towards the end? Did you have any outside? Said you drove a school bus,
Well, yeah, I drove a school bus while I
Jordan.
was on the job. While I was on the job.
Right?
Oh,
Had to have one of the students arrested
yes.
smoking weed. Today, the
Smoking
whole
weed.
bus is smoking weed. The driver's smoking weed. It's legal, man. They have a dispensary as you get on the bus. Just kidding, everybody. Sorry, Ohio over here. I'm in PA. Did you? So no real form of employment outside of no outside of employment in Montgomery County, Moco County as a cop.
While I was working,
Right.
no.
Okay.
Like
Did you?
I said, I did do substitute bus driver when they needed somebody. And
You did volunteer work. You did some volunteer work connected to the PD, correct?
yes.
Okay. Once you resigned, well, let's go over your resignation. Let's tell them about how you officially resigned. I'm
Well,
sorry, retired. Excuse me.
first of all, when I left the plainclothes unit, I went back to be in the district where mine lived,
Okay.
and the captain there, we've made amends since this time, but he put me in a beat team. It was by itself, and it was supposed to be policing at its best, and they were the laziest cops there ever were.
Oh.
And I rocked their world. There was a mutiny, and the captain transferred me to another district. And I had told him I didn't want to go up there because they were lazy cops.
Ooh.
And I was there 2 or 3 months, and there was a mutiny, and I didn't have a hearing. He just transferred me, and I won the grievance. I ended up winning the grievance. But
Did win the grievance. Okay.
yes, but things happen. Well, I forget what the original question is. I went.
No, that's all right. No, I wondered if did they put that in? Was that in writing? That was obviously a formal mutiny, right? They went to somebody. They went to your LT.
I've got statements, and it's like they lied. They said
Okay.
things. They got their feelings hurt because they were being supervised.
Okay. Lying on paperwork.
They all went up there. They were begged to go up there. Nobody think about cops and community policing to think about the issue. Hey, no, you do your job.
Yeah.
Community police is pushed on you by the department. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Well, they don't really mean it.
That's exactly right.
Right? Right?
And for everybody out there that's listening to this that's not in LEO, it kills me that the news, whether it be cable or local or legacy news, right? They never have the real deal. They never have the real deal. They'll put somebody on, let's just pick on Fox for a second, who's a deputy inspector, okay? And he speaks well. He's got a nice $80 haircut and the whole deal, right? Nice suit. But where did he come from? I want to see his bio. Was he in the trenches? I mean, he might have been. I don't know. I just don't know. But you retired because of a hip.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say, though, this is important, too.
Right, you see.
Community policing is a wonderful thing. Real cops do it. Real cops, they know who bank tellers are. They know who
sources of information.
They know where
your
the crime
community
areas are.
Exactly right.
I'm talking about real cops. I'm not talking about the lazy ones. I'm talking about real cops. And they want to catch guys doing things. They want to help the community for real. For real. Now the problem has happened, and I think you have to speak to this because this wasn't the case in Montgomery County. Big city areas don't want the cops there.
That's correct.
Because it's owned by another tribe.
Yeah. Well, it's owned by many tribes.
Well, right.
And you know what? Ron? I'm glad you brought that up. And that's an outstanding point. And I had my statistics, and I can't put them on how many police departments there are, thousands. It's got to be over 10,000, okay? But the bottom line is that Ron and there's other communities in the U.S. where they go in a patrol car to put on the body armor, and they go out, and they come back, and their shift ends. I'm really breaking this down simplistic. And then they live in that community. Okay, well, my career was not like that. It's amazing, really. Other than Prince George's County a little bit, but it's definitely federal. Forget it. So you're in urban areas, and you could be disassociated. There's no tribe to that community other than tribe. And I know this sounds a little like I'm being a Boy Scout, which I was, but I didn't make it past tenderfoot. But is that you're just doing good for mankind. You're just doing bad guy versus good guy. I mean, come on. I mean, that's really the bottom line. That's why we started to begin with. All the other shit gets thrown in there from different angles, including our own problems and our own administrators. So, but didn't you have a hip replacement towards the end?
I ended up, I was still playing sports.
Wow.
And I came up with I thought it was a groin pull, and it didn't heal. And I didn't pull my groin, but it hurt. And I went to the doctor and said, "You got the hip of an 80-year-old. You're going to need surgery. You can do it now, but you should try to put it off as long as you can." I think I went another year or two.
Okay.
And then I had left the street. There was an opening. I was either going to go to internal affairs or community outreach. I wish I'd gone to internal affairs, but I went to community outreach. And nothing was expected of me, basically, there.
What do you mean? What do you mean nothing was?
We had units that catered to the public, basically.
Okay.
And administration didn't care as long as they were catering to the public.
Right.
And when I say that, they're wonderful organizations. The Police Explorers, they do wonderful stuff.
Yes.
Police Explorers, and I think we had a couple cops on the job that had attended the Explorers. Politically speaking, we opened the Police Athletic League because of an incident.
Okay.
And that was just political. They didn't care. And I was in charge of these.
Wow.
Crime prevention, they'd go out and do demonstrations and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, so I had my hip replaced. They did not miss me. They just wanted my car. I came back, went to work, never got a note, and came back. That's the job I had. I was still carrying a gun. I had a car. I could get involved. They weren't even in tune. So I applied for disability, wrote it up myself, and one day I came to work. "Don't come to work tomorrow. You're retired."
That was it. No attorneys, no $500 attorneys.
Did it myself. I knew how to play their game. Here it is. I had a doctor articulate everything that had happened and where I'd been. I ran a lot of athletic events in the police department for health reasons and because I love competition.
Gotcha. You never stopped doing that. You actually were always like that. Let's talk about this period of retirement. How far out would you say, and I'm asking you, first time I ever asked you this, did you see a vision that it's time for me to go? Or I don't feel the same way, or I don't like it? The
hip. I didn't like where I was.
Okay.
But it was conducive. It was conducive to family life. It was very conducive. I think I would have liked internal affairs much better to be truly. Is this a political issue or is this a real issue?
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying.
Sure, I sure do. Absolutely, 100%.
Look at this videotape. Look at this.
Experience myself. Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't have bad experience with, but I've heard a lot. And I as a shop rep, I represented guys that were taking internal affairs, and I just some of the stuff is like, come on. But I kind of wish I'd gone there, see the other side of the point, because there's the other side.
Interesting. I can't say I would have done that, but that's interesting.
It's better than community outreach in that case, I think.
Yeah. Looking back, so you step off the good ship, Montgomery County, right? You transition into the free world. You did some contract work, locally, correct? Like at the country club or something?
I got into coaching. That was the biggest thing.
The coaching was that. So,
yes.
Okay. So you went.
Substitute taught. would substitute teach at the school that I coached at, just to be a part of it, to have a
Ah,
part
so
of it.
you were on that almost full time?
I did that, but then I did driver education, a company that the guys opened up. I Drive Smart by law enforcement. That was the job. 2 hours shift behind the wheel with teaching a kid.
Teaching kids?
Yeah,
Well, you gave a lot back to your community. I mean, you did. I mean, really. That's very admirable. When did you do the Sherwood football? It's a high
shortly
school in
after
Montgomery County.
Terry Changuris had
Uh-huh.
been up in Seneca Valley. He stepped down. Al Thomas, who was at Sherwood, asked Terry to come out. And then they said they needed another coach. Terry said, I'd been wanting to coach my whole police career, but the
Oh,
hours never permitted.
right.
So he said, "Do you want to coach?" And I got in. It was like, whoo, it was
You're having
great.
a ball. When you look
Oh,
back at your PD career, would you have, in today's thinking, would you have done it again?
in today's thinking,
Yeah. Look, no. Well, I'm saying, looking back with the knowledge you have now, would you do it again? Did you make the right move coming out of college?
oh, absolutely,
Okay, same with me. Yeah, same thing.
absolutely,
I wouldn't done anything
absolutely.
else.
Oh, it wasn't work.
Bingo.
It
That's it.
wasn't work.
Let me tell you something.
It was an
I,
employment. I was employed by them, but it wasn't work.
I absolutely 100. You hear everybody? Let me tell you. And again, this is not about me. It's about Ron. But I'll say where I ended my career in the feds and what I was doing. I told young people all the time I would have done what I did for free. You hear me?
Well,
I couldn't wait to get a radio car.
I share with you. We worked this case, and there was another guy, and we worked overtime, thinking we are going to make this thing, and it fell through. I didn't feel like we should put in overtime because we failed. I actually thought
Wow.
that.
Great attitude, man. Great
I actually
attitude.
thought that
You're a fine American.
because it wasn't. I was single, so I didn't have any ties. Working overtime was nothing.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. So now let's step into the final. You're still with us. Thank God. God bless you. Let's step into this KAIRO program. So give the audience a kind of a thumbnail on how that happened. And that's where you help in the penal institutions, giving support from the Christian side. So if I'm saying that right, make sure I got that.
Well, it's KAIROS International
Mhm.
in 35 states. It might be 37. 8 nations. There's a book that I could pull it up, but it's a manual for a weekend. And it started off, there was a Catholic weekend and then just a basic Christian weekend, Christo and the walk to Emmaus. That was the Christian version of it. And these guys got together and said, we ought to do this in the prison. See if we can get in prisons. And it grew. It's a weekend, starts on Thursday. You introduce yourselves, you get to know each other, and then you get to know Christ, and then you graduate on the weekend. And there's about 8 talks. There's discussion. Like I said, the mantra is listen, love, love. You just go in there. There's a leader, table leader, assistant leader, and a clergy with 6 other guys, 6 residents. And there's 7 tables. There's 42 guys on a weekend. And like I said, the talks are the same.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been on a weekend where it has always been the same, but it's the same structure. It is incredible. It is incredible. There's a thing called agape. That's God's love. We give them agape. They get letters, they get cookies, they get things. That's
From who, Ron? Who's that coming from? Where is it?
The volunteers and churches.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And
Okay.
then they on Friday, is it Saturday? I guess it's Saturday. They get a bag full of letters. I write 42 letters, 42 different letters to each one.
42 different inmates.
Yes.
Correct? Yes. Okay, got it.
Yes. And then we get other people write letters, but there's like 35 volunteers. So they've got 35 letters right there. They get 35 letters. Some of these guys have been in prison 20 years and never had a letter.
Wow.
These guys are crying.
Mm.
We leave them alone and they start reading these letters. And it's just, it's very moving. When I first did it, I was like, I had my reservation, but my cousin's husband asked me, I did a walk to Emmaus. I did a 4-day weekend. I said, but
Now, how far back is that? Give me how far time-wise that was.
15, 20 years ago.
Oh, wow. You've been at it for a while. Okay.
Yeah. And it truly is probably one of the biggest life-changing experiences I've had. I always, when I went on the job, I said I could shoot somebody raping somebody. I could shoot them in the back.
With no pain.
Yeah. My thought.
Line of duty.
Huh? In the
Line of duty.
Yes. But that was my thought. I said I could pull the cord.
Pull the cord, right?
My attitude's changed a lot. I understand that has to be done sometimes. I'm not saying it shouldn't be done sometimes.
Right.
But I don't. I think that if you can reach somebody that's reachable, please do.
Let me ask you this, a philosophical question, if I may. And I couldn't say it to the good father because he didn't come from our background and his was a little bit different. So some of these cats are in there doing 20 years, hard time, right? Yeah.
And life.
Could be cop killers. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So you, and I'm asking you for the audience, you have no issue putting yourself on this KAIROS team duty and doing what you have to do. There's nothing in between.
I have a dear brother who killed a cop I've met.
Hmm.
And when I say that, and they've been in Baltimore, but I was giving a talk, and this in a predominantly black setting. There's blacks, but there's a handful of whites. This guy is taking notes when I'm talking. I'm giving one of the talks. And then I mentioned that I was a retired cop. His pen dropped. His head went down. And I went up to him afterwards. I said, you know what? It's wonderful when you're giving a talk and you have attention from people. And I thought, I had your attention.
Yes, it is.
And I said, what happened? He goes, you don't know who I am, do you? And I said, no, I don't. I'd like to know. He said, I killed a cop. And my jaw, I had to hold it.
Of course.
It didn't drop. No, but when I said we talked, it turned out in this case, it was kind of a barricade situation. He was just going like this over the head.
Okay.
He didn't try to kill a cop.
Gotcha.
He was high.
It wasn't assassination.
Right. So, but that's an example, though. You don't know until you get to know.
How long? Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, that's
okay. Well, how long will you do this? What do you envision? Or are you in it for the long haul? There's no end to the program, I would presume.
correct.
Okay. So you stay you're now in South Carolina. Do you stay in your area or do you travel and do this? Or are there national meetings or do you have to go to training?
There's Ridgeland Correctional Institution. Maximum security is 45 minutes from me. 2 weekends a year. When things like COVID happen.
Okay.
But generally speaking, the wardens, chaplains, they are the key to successful program because they want to have it. But when you have a prison warden behind it, it changes the prison. It changes the violence gets reduced. There's an impact.
So you would say that the reception is good from that end, from the administration of the prison and the guards and the personnel in the prison.
Well, just from prison, you can have just like every organization.
Sure.
Just like here it is. Okay, we do this, but you don't support it.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, of course. And okay. Well, Ron, let's wrap it up here a little bit. Is there anything else you want to say on that program?
Life changing.
That's how I want it.
I'll preach on it. God loves the worst sinner.
What's that now?
God loves the worst sinner. Loves them just as much as he loves you and me.
Wow, wow, very good. Well, audience, I'm not on that program yet. I can't say I will be, but I need to tighten up my. I'm trying to, in the past couple of years, tighten up my
Relationship with
my
the
moral
Lord.
character. Okay, but I thought I was doing the right thing. So, in summation, Mr. Sterling, teamwork,
Oh man,
football,
relationships.
relationships with human beings. I presume, and you don't have to answer. Just Rebecca, is that your wife's name? Rebecca. One wife. For those of you in the non-LEO audience, divorce rate in law enforcement is atrocious. It was 88% when I got to federal ranks. I work with dudes that were sleeping under their desk in New York organized crime unit, been married 4 times. Didn't have a penny to rub together. That's another story. We know the administration has always been against us no matter what outfit you're in. Always, always. The tribe is whatever unit you're in for the most part. And of course, your family, like you put it very well. You would do it again if you had to. I take it you have a son and a daughter, correct?
Right.
Neither one of them are going in that direction. Law enforcement, no.
No. They're smart.
I got you.
Although
Go ahead.
my daughter's in a profession, I don't know who has it harder, cops or teachers.
I agree. I would agree with that.
Cops or teachers.
I would
they don't have
combat
support.
training. I would.
It's the show, but on the show,
I would. That's in the angel dog category. I would agree. You would do it again if you had it all over. Okay. The low spot of anything was, if you could put it on one, what was your worst low spot? Professional or personal, if you want to share it, so other people can hear it. This is your story, brother. Give me the low. And what would have been the lowest? If there was. If there wasn't, forget about it. A dark.
The two, and it was disappointing from administration.
Okay.
Narcotics and that special team when I went to a ship, the B team that I didn't want to go to because
They want to go to. Nobody wants to be in a B team.
That was a horrible experience.
It was a horrible experience. And how long did that last? How long in time was that? That month, a week, a year?
I worked with them for 2 months, and it was like Christmas Eve. I got transferred.
Miserable.
Yeah, and it was probably a half a year battle.
Wow. And do you stay in touch with your ex-comrades in Moco County?
Yeah, well, I call a lot of them. I call for the reunion. We've got a manual, the Alumni Association.
Beautiful.
I make contact with a lot of them.
I need to do more of that. Do you feel as though in your personal life today, and you're pretty dialed in, brother. You're way more dialed in that regard than me. Do you feel that supports you, or does it go back and reminisce something you should have, could have, would have? You know what I'm saying?
I writing life stories. I want people's perceptions on things that did happen.
Yeah.
Don't we know eyewitnesses are the worst evidence?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The worst evidence. Pictures, yes. Forensics, yes. Everybody sees things differently.
No question about it. And it's all where you sit. And we've come to the conclusion that your first line supervisor, whoever that is, whether they call it a sergeant, whether they call it a corporal, whether it's a GS, group supervisor, SSA, senior special agent supervisor, whatever it is, it makes or breaks your life. Makes or breaks your life. And the final one is, and we didn't touch on this, but your wife was in support of you, I'm gathering, and don't let me put words in your mouth. She was in support of most of your moves and what you did on the job. I'm going on the job now. On the job. Okay. So you didn't have, as we know, there were gentlemen that we worked side by side with that they couldn't stand to go home. They wouldn't go home. They didn't want to go home. And at least 50% of it was their own problem, but
Yeah.
Ron, and the final wrap up is, give me a day in the life right now of 72-year-old Mr. Rod Serling. And I remember you when you were about 140 pounds and 17 years old. Go ahead.
It's my wife said, "What are you going to do today?" When we were up in Montgomery County, I was still doing driver ed, so I had a number of things, and I'd be out.
Uh-huh.
Now, where are you going?
Where are you going? You just go. Don't you have to go for a ride? Is that what it is? Now, in all due seriousness, though, and I'm inspired by this, a form of, if you will, spiritual meditation, if I'm using the correct terminology, like a fighter that goes into the mountains to train. You read the Bible and study every morning at 0400. Am I correct?
Anywhere from 3:30 to 4:30, I'll get up and then get in it.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
How's your health?
It's just 72 years old. How's that sound?
Well, is there anything you want to say to the audience before we sign off, brother?
Keep moving. Keep moving.
Keep moving.
Don't have to do it like you used to, but keep moving.
There you go. God bless you.
All right.
Send me some more.
All right.
Your next candidate is after the new year.
All right.
Take care.
Later.
We'll see you.
Recording's off.